Want to take a non-stop headfirst dive into the history of dance that literally changed the world? Forget just getting your groove on. We're talking about the craziest dance crazes that didn't just move bodies, they actually, for real, transformed everything. From ancient stomping rituals that shook the earth to the dances that made your grandparents blush, and maybe still do, we're hitting hyperspeed on the evolution of groove. Get ready for mind-blowing moves, historical hip shakes, and a whole lot of, wait, dance what? We're unraveling the wild and wonderful story of dance. The thing we do at weddings after a few too many toasts, the thing that makes babies bounce, the thing that has literally shaped cultures, and dare I say, changed the world. Now when I say change the world, I'm not just talking about inventing the Macarena, though culturally significant, debatable, catchy, undeniably. We're talking about movements that sparked revolutions, defined eras, and are still popping up in your favorite shows today. So let's get this historical dance party started. So where does our epic dance saga truly begin? Well, let's crank that time machine way back. Like before your grandma's grandma was even a twinkle in someone's eye. Think cave paintings, folks. Seriously. Some of the earliest evidence of dance is literally etched in stone. We're talking thousands of years ago in places like Lascaux, France, around 17,000 BCE, and Altamira, Spain, around 15,000 BCE. These weren't exactly TikTok dances, mind you. More like ritualistic stomping, probably involving animal skins and a whole lot of ooga booga, the OG mosh pit. These early dances were all about survival, storytelling, and connecting with the spiritual world. Think rain dances to, get rain. Hopefully more effective than just shaking your fists at the clouds. War dances to psych up the warriors. Imagine trying to learn the steps before a big battle. And fertility dances. Well, you get the idea. All very practical, very primal. Fast forward a bit to ancient civilizations like Egypt and Greece. Dance became more formalized, part of religious ceremonies and entertainment. In ancient Egypt, around 3100 BCE to 30 BCE, they had elaborate religious processional dances depicted in their tomb paintings. The Greeks, around 800 BCE to 600 CE, took it even further. They even had muses dedicated to dance. Can you imagine? Hey, what's up, terpsichore muse of dance? Oh, just inspiring some sick moves for a Dithrum. That was their wild choral dance for Dionysus, around the 7th century BCE. They even had the Pyrrhic dance by the 5th century BCE, a war dance done in armor. Talk about a high-impact workout. You see bits of this ancient influence even today. Think about the flowing movements in some modern ritualistic dances or the dramatic gestures in classical ballet. Echoes from way back when. So even way back then, dance was more than just silly movements. It was woven into the fabric of life. Okay, the Middle Ages, roughly 5th to 15th century. Not exactly known for its wild dance parties. Things got, a bit stiff. The church wasn't always a fan of too much hip action, but that didn't stop people entirely. Folk dances persisted, often linked to celebrations and seasonal changes. Think carols, which were popular throughout the medieval period, not just for Christmas, mind you. These were often circle dances with singing, a bit like a medieval flash mob, probably less coordinated though. Think Morris dancing in England, bells, sticks, the whole shebang. Now what is Morris dancing, you ask? Imagine a group of people, often men, dressed in white with bells strapped to their legs, waving handkerchiefs or clashing sticks in somewhat synchronized, emphasis on somewhat, patterns. While its exact origins are debated, it was definitely kicking around by the 15th century, and some believe even earlier forms existed. Still kicking around today, often at festivals. Imagine trying to explain that to someone from the 21st century. Yeah, they hit each other with sticks while wearing bells. It's tradition. Now, there's one dance-related phenomenon for this time that's a bit, well, unsettling. The dancing plague. Yep, you heard that right. In the 16th century, particularly notable outbreaks occurred in places like Strasbourg in 1518. People would suddenly start dancing uncontrollably for days, sometimes even to their deaths. We still don't fully understand it. Mass hysteria? A weird fungus? Talk about a dance that changed your life, literally, and not in a good way. No cool TikTok trends came out of that one. So while the medieval era wasn't exactly a dance floor inferno, the urge to move and celebrate, or spontaneously dance yourself into oblivion, was still there. Just a bit different. Fear not, the groove returns. The Renaissance, that explosion of art, science, and questionable fashion choices, also saw dance take its first elegant steps towards what we now know as ballet. We're talking the 15th and 16th centuries, mostly in Italy, where fancy courtly entertainments called balletti were all the rage. Think elaborate pageants with music, costumes, and you guessed it, dancing. The original dinner theater, but with way more bowing and definitely no quick bathroom breaks. A key player in this fancy footwork was Catherine de' Medici, an Italian queen who married into the French royalty in the 16th century. She was a huge fan of these balletti and basically brought the Italian dance craze to France. Think of her as the ultimate dance influencer of her time. It was a royal decree. One of the most famous of these early French court ballets was the Ballet Comique de la Reine in 1581. Talk about a production. It lasted 5 hours. Imagine trying to sit through that without checking your phone. These weren't exactly pirouettes and pliés as we know them today. The movements were more formal processions, intricate patterns, and graceful posing. But look closely and you can clearly see the seeds of ballet and their emphasis on elegance, posture, and storytelling through movement. Remember those fancy period dramas? All those elaborate bows and curtsies? That's the Renaissance trying its absolute best to be graceful before anyone figured out the whole turn on one leg without falling over thing. So the Renaissance bravely laid the groundwork, dusting off all that medieval stiffness and planting the first, very fancy, ballet seats. It was all about looking impossibly regal and showing off, a grand tradition that, well, let's be honest, hasn't entirely disappeared from the world of dance, even today. Fast forward to the Baroque era, the 17th and 18th centuries, and things got serious for ballet, especially in France under King Louis XIV, the Sun King himself. This dude was obsessed with dance. Not only did he star in ballets himself, hence the Sun King nickname, from his role in the Ballet Royal de la Nuit in 1653, but he also basically established ballet as a professional art form. Talk about a hobby spiraling out of control. Louis XIV wasn't just a performer. He was a visionary of the plie. In 1661, he founded the Académie Royale des Danses, basically the OG Hogwarts for aspiring ballet dancers. This is where the 5 basic positions of ballet were officially standardized. 5 positions. Seems simple, but they're the foundation of everything. Think of it as the alphabet of fancy footwork. Leading the charge at the Academy were influential figures like Pierre Beauchamp, who is often credited with solidifying those 5 positions and developing the technique of turned out legs. You know, that pretending you're a duck stance that's surprisingly hard to master. Ballet was becoming a serious business, with rigorous training and professional dancers taking the stage. Literally, as performances moved from the grand halls of the court to actual theaters. The 18th century saw ballet continue to evolve, with a greater emphasis on storytelling and expressive movement. Dancers like Marie Camargo shocked audiences by shortening their skirts to show off their fancy footwork, scandalous, and Jean-Georges Noverre championed the ballet d'action, ballets that told a clear narrative through movement and mime, not just pretty posing. Think of it as ballet finally getting a plot beyond, look how graceful we are. So the Baroque era was basically ballet's glow up. It went from a courtly amusement to a disciplined art form with its own rules, vocabulary, mostly in French, très chic, and professional superstars, all thanks to a king who really, really liked to dance. Now let's ditch the powdered wigs and get into the 19th century. Suddenly, things got a whole lot less socially distanced on the dance floor. Enter the waltz, and boy did it cause a scandal. We're talking the early 1800s, and suddenly couples were holding each other close and whirling around the ballroom. Gasp! The audacity! Before this, many popular European dances, like the minuet, which peaked in the late 18th century, involved partners facing each other but maintaining a respectable arm's length distance. The waltz was seen as intimate, even provocative. What made this close contact twirling so revolutionary? Well, the music for one. The smooth, flowing 3-beat rhythm, often in 3/4 time, was something new and intoxicating. Composer like Johann Strauss the Elder, think early to mid-19th century, and later his son, Johann Strauss the Younger, mid to late 19th century, became absolute rock stars of their time, writing waltzes that swept across Europe like a viral TikTok dance, but with more violins. Their music was the dance, and the dance was the music. But the waltz wasn't just a musical phenomenon, it was a social one. It broke down some of the rigid social barriers of the time, allowing for more direct interaction between men and women. Suddenly you didn't need a complicated set of rules and bowing etiquette just to share a dance. Just grab a partner and spin. This newfound freedom on the dance floor mirrored some of the broader social changes happening in the 19th century. It was a bit like the dance floor saying, hey, maybe we could all just get along and twirl. The waltz spread like wildfire across Europe and eventually the world, becoming a staple of social gatherings, from grand balls to your slightly tipsy uncle at a wedding. It truly changed social dancing forever, making partner dancing more connected, more intimate, and a whole lot more dizzying. So the next time you're awkwardly swaying in a close embrace on the dance floor, remember, you're part of a revolutionary tradition. Welcome to the 20th century, where things got spicy on the dance floor. The 1920s roared in with jazz music, a revolutionary sound born from the fusion of African rhythms and European harmonies, particularly in African American communities in the southern United States, around the late 19th and early 20th centuries. This wasn't your grandma's waltz, though. It was syncopated, it was lively, and it demanded a whole new way of moving. and move they did. Enter the Charleston, arguably the dance of the Roaring Twenties. With its flicking feet and swinging arms, it was a perfect visual representation of the era's newfound freedom and rebellion against Victorian stuffiness. Think flapper dresses, bobbed hair, and a whole lot of shimmying. It was energetic, it was scandalous to some, and it was undeniably catchy. The viral sensation of its era, but with way more pizzazz. But the jazz age wasn't just about solo showboating. Soon came the Lindy Hop, which really took off in Harlem in the late 1920s and early 1930s. This was a partner dance that was energetic, improvisational, and just plain fun. It incorporated elements of the Charleston but added more swing and room for individual expression. Think of it as the cool older sibling of the Charleston, with more aerials and fancy footwork. The dance that said, hey, let's really cut loose. Now, as the 1930s transitioned into the 1940s, a new dance built upon the energy of the Lindy Hop and swing emerged as a wartime favorite, spreading joy and boosting morale, the jitterbug. This energetic dance, often danced to big band and boogie-woogie music, was characterized by its fast, jumpy movements and spontaneous style. American GIs stationed abroad during World War II even helped spread the jitterbug across Europe. It was a dance that truly captured the restless and energetic vibe of the time. These dances weren't just about having a good time. They were also a reflection of significant social changes. The rise of jazz and these energetic dances challenged racial barriers and traditional social norms. They were a form of cultural expression and a way for people to let loose in a rapidly changing world. Plus, they just looked really cool. Try doing the Charleston in a corset. You'll understand the revolution. So the Roaring Twenties and the swinging 40s that followed weren't just about bathtub gin and wartime efforts. They were also about a dance revolution set to infectious beats. These moves didn't just get people moving, they helped define eras and pave the way for even more groundbreaking dances to come. Buckle up, because the 1950s brought a seismic shift to the dance floor, fueled by a new sound, rock and roll. Emerging from a fusion of blues, gospel, and country music in the early to mid 1950s, it was the sound of a generation ready to break free from the more conservative norms of the post-war era. And with this new music came a whole new way of moving. Less about formal steps and more about, well, feeling it. Leading the charge in the visual department was none other than Elvis Presley and his, shall we say, dynamic hip movements. Suddenly, shaking your hips wasn't just something you did in private. It was a form of rebellion and self-expression that drove teenagers wild and made parents clutch their pearls. It was raw, it was energetic, and it was undeniably captivating. But it wasn't just about individual flair. Dances like the twist, which gained massive popularity around 1960, though its origins are earlier, were simple, individual, and incredibly liberating. Suddenly, you didn't even need a partner. It was just you, the music, and a whole lot of twisting your body like you were drying yourself with an invisible towel. It was the ultimate do-your-own-thing dance, and it freaked out the older generation who were probably still trying to master the foxtrot. Rock and roll and its accompanying dances were a new musical trend, but more than that, they were a cultural earthquake. They represented a generational divide, a new social playbook, and the rise of youth culture. The energy, the casualness, and the sheer fun of these dances were infectious, and it had a massive impact on fashion, music, and social attitudes. It was the sound and the movement of a generation finding its voice and its hips. So the 1950s weren't just about poodle skirts and sock hops. They were about a dance revolution powered by electric guitars and a whole lot of youthful energy. These dances didn't just get people moving, they helped define a generation and set the stage for even more boundary-breaking moves in the decades to come. Alright, let's hop into our psychedelic time machine and land squarely in the 1960s, a decade that was all about breaking free, both socially and on the dance floor. While some of the earlier solo crazes like the twist lingered, the 60s unleashed a new kind of energy and a visual icon, the go-go dancer. The term go-go itself, some say, came from the French phrase a go-go, meaning in abundance or galore, perfectly capturing the high-energy, free-form spirit of the dance. Go-go dancing really took off in the early to mid-1960s, with clubs like the Whiskey A Go-Go in Los Angeles, which opened in 1964, becoming synonymous with the trend. These dancers, often perched on platforms or even in cages, weren't about strict choreography. They were about feeling the music and letting loose. And what music were they grooving to? The soundtrack of the 60s dance revolution was pure energy. Think surf rock, early soul, and the burgeoning sounds of pop. Songs like Wipeout by the Safaris in 1963, Land of 1000 Dances by Cannibal and the Headhunters in 1965, and Anything by Motown got those go-go boots moving. These weren't dances with intricate steps you had to learn. They were about individual style and infectious enthusiasm. Beyond the clubs, go-go dancing infiltrated mainstream culture through television shows like Kulabaloo and Shindig, where caged go-go girls became a visual staple. It was a symbol of the youthquake, of women embracing more freedom in their expression and movement. Plus, let's be honest, those go-go boots were pretty iconic. The 60s dance scene was a melting pot of individual expression, fueled by a vibrant music scene and a desire to break away from tradition. It wasn't just about specific steps, it was about the vibe, the energy, and a whole lot of shaking that perfectly captured the spirit of a revolutionary decade. The 1970s erupted with disco. Saturday Night Fever, anyone? Disco was pure glitz, glamour, and getting down on the dance floor, bringing partner dancing back with a funky modern twist. Think infectious four-on-the-floor beats, synchronized moves, and a whole lot of shimmering style. But while disco dominated the mainstream, the raw seeds of what we now consider modern street dance were being sown in the urban landscapes of New York City. In the Bronx of early 1970s, hip-hop culture rose, bringing with it a revolutionary and expressive new form of dance, breakdancing, or b-boying, b-girling. These were powerful forms of storytelling and fierce competition, showcasing incredible athleticism and creativity. The energy and innovation of early hip-hop laid the groundwork for a dance explosion in the following decades. The 1980s saw hip-hop dance evolve on screen with iconic moves like the Cabbage Patch and the Running Man, popularized by music videos and films, making dance a global pop culture phenomenon. And let's not forget the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson, whose moonwalk, popularized in 1983, became arguably the most famous dance move in history, inspiring millions to mimic his magic. Then the 1990s brought the pulsating rise of electronic music and rave culture, ushering in a whole new wave of individual and collective movement. Think the Macarena, which exploded in 1996, at every wedding, or the more energetic electric slide, popular in the 90s and beyond, at family gatherings, where everyone could join in, no partner needed. As we roll into the 2000s, hip-hop continued its evolution with dances like the Crank That Soulja Boy in 2007, becoming incredibly influential. These dances, often born from specific songs, showcased how a catchy beat and a simple, repeatable move could instantly unite millions on the dance floor, proving that the roots of hip-hop kept growing into new, accessible forms. The 1970s, therefore, were a pivotal era where the glittering world of disco shared the stage with the raw, emerging power of hip-hop. These seemingly different styles both pushed boundaries and fundamentally helped usher in the multifaceted modern movement we know and love today, which only continued to branch out in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Okay, we've moonwalked through centuries, and now we're leaping headfirst into the 21st century, the digital age. And let me tell you, dance has gone absolutely global and at times utterly viral. The way we create, share, and consume dance has been completely flipped, twisted, and remixed by technology. Remember waiting for music videos on TV to learn the latest moves? Now platforms like YouTube are massive online dance academies, offering tutorials from everything from salsa to crumping. Want to learn the choreography from your favorite K-pop group? There's a tutorial for that. The barriers to learning and sharing dance have practically vanished. But the real game changer has been the rise of short-form video apps like TikTok. Suddenly, anyone can become a dance creator, and a catchy tune paired with a simple set of moves can explode into a global phenomenon overnight. Think of viral sensations from 2020 like the Renegade and the Savage Challenge, or countless other fleeting but incredibly infectious dances. These aren't just trends, they're a new form of global folk dance, spreading and evolving at lightning speed. What's fascinating is how these digital dances often borrow and remix elements from the dances that came before. You see echoes of the individual expression of hip-hop, the communal energy of line dances, even the theatricality of early ballet, all filtered through the lens of internet culture. It's a constant cycle of inspiration and reinterpretation. Dance in the 21st century is a constantly morphing, democratized dance party happening across continents, connected by Wi-Fi. It's a fusion of global influences, accessible technology, and the timeless human urge to move, express ourselves, and maybe get a few likes while doing it. So our historical dance journey comes to a close. Remember, the dance floor is now potentially the entire planet, and the next viral sensation could be just a swipe away. The evolution of dance continues, one digital groove at a time. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour through the history of dance. From ancient rituals to viral sensations, it's clear that the human need to move and express ourselves through rhythm is a constant. And now in the digital age, that expression has found a whole new stage. Thanks for joining me on this dance history journey. Now, if you'll excuse me, I feel a sudden urge to bust a move. Comment below, what's your favorite dance that changed the world? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more historic deep dives into cool stuff. Until next time, keep dancing, and as always, thank you for watching.